Hello, am I audible? Am I audible enough?
You are. Hello.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have Gary right now. So, good morning, Miss Oluwaseun Kolawole. It's such an honor to have you here with us. Good morning once again.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
So we have Miss Kolawole here on stage with us. She is the founder of Peace Shapers, a school advocate for tackling school violence through peace education, advocacy, and also school violence prevention. It's so good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for
So, Miss
having me.
Kolawole, we want to hear what you have for us today, empowering students through social and emotional learning. So, please, the stage is yours.
All right. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am in Nigeria, and it is currently 8:30 a.m. here. I am so honored to be here. I think this is my second time facilitating a session with Global Citizenship Foundation, and I really do not take this for granted. Thank you for always having me in your books. I'm very much excited about this session this morning. I really love to have my sessions very engaging. So if you can hear me audibly and you're here with me this morning, please let me get a feedback. Okay, let me get a feedback from you. All right, and let me know if you can see me clearly as well. I have two screens here with me, and so you're going to be faced to move around just a little. But I hope that I'm not too close to my screen again. I hope it is much better. Okay, fantastic, great, good to be here, everybody. Hi, Damilola. I'm so glad to be here again. I do have a slide to share. I do have my presentation. I do not know if Lunara can help me with that. Once we are ready, let me know. All right. My name is Oluwaseun Kolawole, and I am the Executive Director of Peace Shapers Africa. Peace Shapers is basically an organization dedicated to tackling school violence and empowering children as proactive peace builders. And a lot of times when I get to speak like this and speak around the work that I do, I get to be asked a question like, how did you get into this space? What led you here? How did you know this is something that you would love to do? And my response is usually I have lived through this life. I have lived through this journey, and my own personal experience as I would like to see myself as a young girl. I am a young girl. As a young woman growing in Nigeria, I was born in Ondo State. My parents do have a school here in Ondo State, Nigeria, and growing up, violence, right? As a child, I saw that the only way to deal or resolve conflict is, by throwing fists and punching and fighting and throwing violent objects. And I grew up with that mentality that I had a very short temper. I didn't know how to effectively communicate. I didn't know how to express myself, and my parents started to notice something, which was that this is not a conducive environment for a young girl to grow. You know, because a lot of times we tend to often forget that the teen year, the teenage year of a child, even the preteen year of a child defines how the child will turn out. And one of the most beautiful things that I would always be grateful for is how intentional my parents were about taking me out of that space, taking me out of that community, taking me out of that violent environment. And it wasn't until I left that space that I realized how damaged how damaged I was, and in the sense that I could not easily associate with my peers. I couldn't communicate effectively. I was very violent. I was very aggressive. Like I said earlier, I was very short-tempered, and it took me a while to start to unlearn and relearn and to retrain myself on how to have, basic social and emotional skills, right? How to effectively respond to conflict without turning into violence, how to engage with my peers, how to make decisions, how to set goals and actually go for those goals without backing out, how to be a resilient person. I'm in my late 20s now, and I have realized that this is something that is not often talked about in especially in a country like mine, which is Nigeria. We tend to often focus on the academic growth of a child more than the social and emotional learning of that child, which is why this topic is extremely important. It is why now in this time, in this season, for such a time as this, these are the conversations that we need to have. Education needs to go beyond, just the academics. And as much as those things are important, our goal should be to train total children. And what do I mean by total children? I mean children that are emotionally sound, children that are socially sound, children that are academically sound, children that are safe, all right, that find themselves in safe environment to learn, to grow, and to thrive. We should go beyond just trying to raise children that can sort out basic numeracy and literary skills, to children that can live outside of the school walls and still be able to build, great relationships, healthy relationships. Damaged children live to become damaged adults, and a damaged adult is one that will literally, continue the cycle of violence in the society. At this time, in this moment, this age, in this 21st century, we need to have conversations like this, how we can empower students through social and emotional learning. This has been my journey. This is what led me to starting Peace Shapers. And in Peace Shapers, we use 4 pillars to promote peace building relationships, peace education, where we train children on how to identify violence and how to tackle it using conflict resolution skills, using effective communication skills, using emotional intelligence. We also do this through advocacy. We do this through service learning, where we get to provide opportunities and platforms for children to actually speak up, to be part of building a peaceful and sustainable society. And we also use the support system, where we provide um, a well structured support system for any child that has gone through violence, for any child that is experiencing any form of abuse in their homes and within their school communities, right? So my slides will be speaking to empowering students through social and emotional learning. I believe the team is ready. Can we move on to the next slide? Again, I really love my sessions to be very engaging. So please indulge me if there is anything that you'd like to ask. Do well to raise a hand or just, identify notify me, and I would. But can I know where you're speaking from? I can see Dami, I can see Lenora, both from Nigeria. If there is any other person here, let me know. Okay, hi Najmi from Pakistan. Good to have you here. I hope I pronounced your name right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to wait a bit. Okay, hi. So honored to have you here. Waiting for my slides to be presented. So please let me know where you what you do. I can see Santiago is a student, Najmi also a student. Thank you so much for joining us this morning or this afternoon. Can you let me know what time it is at your side? It's currently 8:30 a.m. here, or 8:41 a.m. actually. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So I want when did you get to reflect and say I want a different story? Because I think it's not possible to get up such. Well, I did mention that my parents took me out of that environment. That was a very defining season or moment of my life because it then helped me to see that um like I said earlier, there was something damaged in the way I grew up, right? And I knew that I needed to unlearn a lot of things, and that's actually what led me to this path. I now I'm currently very passionate about seeing and helping as many young people as possible to imbibe, a very healthy way of living. How to manage their emotions, how to be resilient, how to um, passionately go for what they want without turning it into violence. So yes, I think having my parents identify how I was responding to things and how unhealthy that was, and them having to take me out of that context into a new context that was more healthy, that was um, toxic free, changed everything for me. And over time, I've been able to work with as many children. I think I've been able to work with about 500 students now, to learn how to effectively manage their emotions. And that is what I will be sharing with you: the power of social and emotional learning for students and even as young adults, right? But let me start with this question. Think about a young person in your life. Najmi, think about a young person in your life, and what do you hope they will be able to learn or be able to do to be successful in their future? I would really love a response, but I want you to think about it. All right, I think my slides are ready. Fantastic. All right, so this is the question that I just asked. If you think of a young person, even you yourself, what do you think you need to do to be successful in the future? If you heard me, please do well to respond. I would really love you to respond to that question. What do you think, aside from, you know, your classes, your trainings, What are the other things that you think you need to be successful in your future? If you can hear me, please respond to that. This is a very important question because it just helps us to think and see things from, yeah, communicate effectively. Yes, which is very, 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 very important. We cannot have or build a healthy life and healthy relationships even when we get out of school, without being able to communicate effectively. I do a counseling session for couples and for young people, and one of the things that I tell them when it comes to engaging with anybody, either at school or at work or anywhere in any form of relationship, is that communication takes more than half of your conversations or of your engagement with anybody at all, right? If you're not able to effectively communicate your emotions in such a way that the next person actually hears and understand, you're going to be shortchanging yourself a whole lot. You're going to be missing out on a whole lot. And not only will you be missing out, other people will not be able to be impacted by your own knowledge. Do you see that now? So communicating effectively is one of those skills, one of those things that we need to do, that we need to be able to do to have a successful life, a successful career, successful relationships. Santiago said, I think having perseverance is an important aspect. Yes, perseverance. Yes, being resilient. And this simply means that no matter what life throws at me, I keep going, right? No matter what life throws at us, because life is definitely not going to be so smooth and so easygoing a lot of times. And this is why, when it comes to empowering students, we need to prepare them for life. Everything is not going to be rosy. You're not going to have everything that you desire to have. And in situations like that, what do you do? This is part of social and emotional learning, and we're going to touch on that very shortly. I want them to be reflective of everything they do. I want them to sit, think, and discuss and reflect all the time. This is important. This is important. This is important. And I'm really grateful that I'm getting this feedback. Can I have my next slide, please? Now you would understand why social and emotional learning is extremely, extremely important. I do not know if this video can be played, but this is supposed to be a video. Leonora, please, can you play this video? Is it possible? Awesome. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Can you give me the next slide then? I'm going to share the link to this video so that we all get it. Now, let's go into what we're here to do, right? What is social emotional learning? Have you ever heard of social emotional learning before? Anybody? Have you ever heard of this before? If you have, just kindly notify. Again, I really love my sessions, very engaging. It just helps me to know that you're following me and I'm just not speaking to myself. Has anyone heard of social and emotional learning before? Yes, 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 yes. What is social and emotional learning? And in simple terms, it is just um, a process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge. Now, pay attention to this: the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. Do you see this? Develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. Feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. Now, this is very encompassing, this is very holistic. It means that for us to grow as people that are socially and emotionally healthy, we need to be able to identify our own personal identities, develop those identities, because unless you know yourself, then you cannot know how to engage with another person. Except you have developed your own healthy identity, then you do not know how to perceive or how to relate with another person. So it goes beyond yourself to having a healthy relationship and managing those emotions to achieve what? Personal and collective goals. To be able to feel and show empathy for others, to be able to establish and maintain supportive relationships and make responsible decisions. Are you with me? This is entirely what social and emotional learning is all about. The knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes. And what my work is this morning or whatever time you are in your place is to help you know, which is the knowledge aspect of this, help you get the skills so that when you're faced with circumstances and situations, those skills and this knowledge come out to play. You're no longer stranded. You're able to help and empower students to be able to develop healthy identities. One of the good things as educator, I am an educator, I am a teacher, and even as adults, one of the good things is that aside from us learning these things for ourselves, we're able to help students to grow holistically, to identify their own personalities, to manage their own emotions effectively. I always say this whenever we engage with young people and even educators. And one of the things that I say is that children are very new to life, and it is very strange for us to, and for us as adults to ask children to be what they have not learned to be, right? So you cannot ask a child to be kind if you haven't taught the child to be kind, if you have not exemplified what kindness means to that child. It is the reason why when children perpetrate acts of violence, uh, and I don't like to call children violent child or violent person. No, it is something that can be unlearned. It is something that can be that you can do away with, right? When we do not exemplify the kind of values that we want to see children act out, then we should not demand that of them. And this is why social and emotional learning is extremely important, because here we're able to inculcate and train them with the knowledge, with the skills, and with the attitude. When you have received the knowledge, it should translate into skills, which should affect and transform your way of life, which is what we call attitude. Can I go to the next slide, please? And let me know if you are following. Now, I'm going to be using the CASEL social and emotional learning framework during my presentation. And CASEL is one of the leading social and emotional organizations in the world. They've done a lot of research around social and emotional learning, and a lot of times we use their framework in our engagements. So, and basically, there are five core pillars of the Castle social and emotional learning framework. And what this framework aims to do is to promote knowledge, like I said earlier, skills and attitudes across these five areas of competency and four key settings. Now I need you to stay with me and pay attention. The framework helps us to consider what are the skills to focus on, right? And how do we create the supportive environment that promotes students' learning development? It is our responsibility as teachers, as educators, to create supportive environment for students to grow into. So how do we create this? What are the things to focus on? What are the skills? What are the competencies that these children and even us as educators need to focus on to build children and raise children and shape children that are socially and emotionally strong? Now, let's see. Let's go to the next slide. This will help us better understand. The first core competency is self-awareness. Self-awareness. Does anybody want to help me with what self-awareness is? I know that you can see it on the screen, but I still want to hear from the audience. What do you think self-awareness is? Anyone? Do I still have you here with me? Okay. Okay. Identifying your own feelings. All right. That's one of them. All right. So the first core competence knows what makes me happy. Yes, angry and sad and more. Yes, you're very correct. Self-awareness. This is a major skill in social and emotional learning. I think one of the most powerful things that we can do as individuals, or that we can be as individuals, is us being able to understand our emotions, us being able to understand our thoughts and our values. We need to move to a value based system where values dictate and direct the way we live and raise children, the way we empower students. We need, as educators, to curate a value based structure, because this is the way that we can easily influence behaviors across all contexts. Are you with me now? You're being able to determine. Remember that we said that social and emotional learning is your ability to identify your own personality. And how you do this is through self-awareness. Are you aware of your own emotions? Do you know when you are angry? Do you know when you are sad? Do you know when you are exhausted? And how do you respond to these emotions? How do you respond to these thoughts? How do you respond to these values? This is what self awareness is all about. You knowing yourself, you knowing how you respond to any form of situation that you encounter. Are you with me now? And this takes us to, please let me know if you can still hear me very clearly. Let me know, please, because I think I'm getting okay, all right, fantastic, thank you so much. This tells me that you're following. And when you are able to identify your emotions and how all of these things influence your action, it helps you to know how to manage them. All right, it helps you to know how to manage them. And this takes me to the next core competency of social and emotional learning, which is self-management. Which is self-management. You being able to manage your emotions, your thoughts, and your behaviors in different situations to help you achieve goals and aspirations. That is what self management is. And as educators, as students, this is extremely crucial to your success in life. This is vital. You being able to manage your emotions, it is literally the ability to stay on one thing and be able to achieve your goals and aspirations. And this includes coping with stress. How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with stress? How do you work together with other people? This also speaks to team building. Can you work with other people towards a towards an aspiration? Are you accommodating? Are you tolerating? All of these things all under self-management. You see, the reason why I am directing these questions to you is because unless we are able to discern by ourselves and know these things for ourselves, we are not able to help other people. We are not able to help the students that we work with. We're not able to even effectively communicate and engage with our peers. Right. So self-management is your ability to control, to put into check your emotions There's something that I always say, and it is that you control how you respond to things. There are two ways to give back another energy that you get from someone. It is either you react or you respond. Your reaction, if you react, it means that you are flowing from what it is that the other person is throwing at you. That is reaction. It means that you are not being self-aware to take in what that person has said or what that person has done, process it, and know how to effectively communicate it back. But if you are very self aware, whatever anyone says, whatever anyone does, you take it in, you process it, and that leads to responding. Do you see that now? That leads to response, not reaction. Let me give this an instance. Imagine that someone comes to you, Lenora or Zara, and comes to you aggressively and says the nastiest things to you. What would be your initial response? What would be your default response? Your default response would be to be aggressive as well. Why are you shouting at me? Why are you raising your voice? Why are you angry? Okay, let me use a personal example. Remember that I shared my story before starting this session, and I basically talked about how I grew up in a very violent community where all I knew was how to throw fist, and exactly I would return the same energy now. Get into this, how to throw fist and throw sharp objects. So whenever anyone talks to me or is raising his voice or her voice at me, I am giving you back the same energy. I am shouting at you as well because I do not understand why you are shouting at me and you do not expect me to shout at you back. And that was because of the context that I grew up in. But as I started to learn and unlearn a lot of things, as I learned about self awareness, instead of me responding or reacting to what people do, you don't control what people do, you control what you do. Do you understand me? You don't get to control how people react. You get to control how you respond. And how you respond helps us to know if you are a socially and emotionally mature person. And all of these things fall under self management. But it goes beyond us. It goes into social awareness as well. You being able to understand the perspective of the person that you're engaging with. You've been able to empathize with others, including those from diverse backgrounds. Now, look at this. We are different people here. We're from different countries. We have different culture. We have different perspectives to life. We have different behaviors, right? This is a very perfect picture of of the world, if you allow me say that. Now, imagine that we start to build or work on a project, and Zara or Leonora or Dami from Nigeria, you know, bring in their different ideas, and I stand vehemently and say, no, we are not going to do this, and no matter what you say, we're not going to go in your direction. I'm not going to see from your perspective. What do you think would happen? It would affect the output of our team, isn't it? It will affect our work. It will affect the project that we're trying to work on. And this also trickles down into, the very personal relationships that we have. We must learn to step into other people's shoes. I don't know if you're with me. We must learn to do what? Step into other people's shoes and learn to see from their perspective, right? Because we have different experiences. The way that I would react or respond to things will be different because of my own background. This is the reason why you have to be socially aware. This is the reason why you have to empathize. If you have a friend or a student within your classroom, or you have a colleague at work who consistently and persistently tries to bring up other ideas, as a socially and emotionally mature person, your goal and your role should be that you step into their shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. You trying wear their shoes and see where it pinches. If you have a friend that you're always arguing with, you never get on the same page with them, you're never going to find a solution to those arguments. But when you sit down and you ask questions, how can I better understand this person? How can I see from their perspective? And this takes us back to communication. Communication is a two-way thing. You speak, I listen, you speak, I speak, and you listen. Do you see that now? This is what we mean by social awareness. You'll be able to perceive, not only perceive, but also empathize with other people around you. Now, relationship skills. This is another core competency of social and emotional learning. And what does it mean? It means to establish and maintain healthy, supportive relationships. Can I ask you a question? Are you a support system? Are you a support system to other people around you? Can you be depended on? Are you a reliable person? Can you be trusted? Can you be trusted? And do you have healthy relationships with those around you? These are the questions to ask. This is how we build a healthy society. Because a lot of times when we think about peaceful societies, healthy societies, we tend to go all the way up to the government, trying to build and provide whatever it is that we need within our societies. But a healthy society starts with healthy personal relationships. As a peace builder, I know that peace building starts with two people. If you find a conflict, even if it is a conflict between countries, it often starts with two people who have disagreed on one thing, right? And this is why relationship skill is very important. You being able to maintain healthy, supportive relationships and effectively navigate settings with different people from different societies, from different backgrounds, from different countries, positions you as a social and emotional, competent person. And this takes us to the very last core competency, which is responsible decision making. Listen to me. If you are self aware, if you know how to identify your emotions, you know how to manage those emotions, you know how to understand other people's perspectives, you know how to establish and maintain healthy relationship, you will be able to make responsible decisions. You will be able to train others to make responsible decisions. We'll be able to empower students to, to make responsible decisions. Because making responsible decision means caring and making caring and constructive choices about your personal behavior and social interactions. It means that I will not throw my fists when I'm supposed to effectively express myself by speaking, by having a basic civil dialogue. Do you see that? It means that when I find myself in difficult conversations, I am able to make a responsible decision to step down and try to understand what the next person is trying to communicate. Do you see that? This is what we mean by social and emotional learning. And when we're able to put all of these core competencies, which is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making together, then we're able to empower students. We are able to help students. We are able to encourage them to go through life strongly and build healthy relationships that transcend beyond the classroom. Are you with me now? Now let's go to the next slide. Because I have touched on the 5 core competencies, so let's go to the sixth slide after the five competencies. Self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making. The next slide. Social and emotional learning key settings. What are the key settings that these skills should be developed in? Right? The skills that we have just mentioned, that is self-awareness, self-management, relationship skills, right? Decision making. Those five key competencies. In what settings should we, train children, train ourselves, even as adults, to play them out? In what settings are they developed? The skills are developed through learning, through experiences. In my organization, we call something service learning. And what does service learning mean? Service learning is basically giving children the opportunity to practicalize what they have learned. So, when you have learned self management, when you have learned self awareness, when you have learned relationship skills, when you have learned social awareness, you've learned how to make responsible decisions. We provide you the platforms and the opportunities to carry out those things. Remember that social and emotional learning is skills. We're talking about knowledge, skills, and attitudes. How attitudes are transformed, how attitudes are made and shaped, is when you give them opportunities to practicalize the knowledge that they have acquired. This is how we see, as social impact leaders and as teachers and as educators, even as parents, our goal should be a transformed attitude, a behavioral change. That is our goal. When we see behavioral change, that is when we can say that this person indeed has been impacted by our learning. If you meet a child who is violent and you stay with that child for 6 months and you do not see any form of behavioral change, you need to go back to your drawing board. Because how you know that a social and emotional skill has been, well ingrained in a child or even in an adult is when you see that the way they respond to life situations now are different or is different from how you met them. Do you see that? This is what we mean by service learning. This is what we talk about when we say service learning. Learning must always translate to behavioral change. If we do not see a change in attitude, then we are not doing something right. If we do not see a change in behavior, then we're not doing something right. So the skills learned or that are developed should be developed through learning, through experiences, and through interactions that students have in all of the places that they live and learn. And where do they live and learn? I always say this to my volunteers, and it is that children spend most of their time in school, more than they spend at home. They spend most of their time. So in Nigeria, you imagine a child that leaves the house by like 7 a.m. and the child stays in school from 9 to about, sometimes they stay in school till like 3 p.m. for those that have extra lessons. Now they get home and they get home by like, let's say 4 o'clock. They try to do their assignments till like 6, and by like 7 8 they're already preparing to go to bed. And then the next morning they spend most of their time in school. So where we shape their skills, their life skills, we should carry this training to them where they are, in the classrooms, in the school community. So it should go from classrooms to school community, to families and caregivers, to the wider community at large. In peace shapers, which is my organization, we run through a whole school approach, right? Which is classrooms, teachers, right? Parents, these community leaders are in. We involve them in our approach, because we cannot work within a school community neglecting the community in which the school is based. And what do I mean by that? We have come to realize that some of these children carry, the attitudes, the behaviors that they learned from outside of the school into the school, right? So if they stay in a house or in a home that is very um violent and abusive, they carry this abusive and violent nature into the classrooms. If they stay in a community where, violence is tolerated, there is a use of weapon, abuse is a norm, they carry this behavior to schools. This is a crucial part of designing programs and curating lessons for your students. I don't know if you are still with me. Can everyone still hear me? You must understand this so that you are well positioned to design programs and social and emotional learning I can no longer see the screen, the slides now. Imagine that you are training a child, right, to be kind, to be compassionate, to be empathetic. And this child consistently goes home, and in that home, they're abusive, they're violent. It just defeats your work as an instructor. It defeats your work as a teacher. It defeats your work as a leader that is trying to help this child to hone a new skill, to shape their behavior. So when it comes to social and emotional learning, we have to consider all of the key settings where children find themselves, where they live, and where they learn. All right? Because social and emotional skills are not developed in a vacuum. They are developed through relationships. Okay, can everyone still hear me? If you can, okay, all right. So I was saying that social and emotional learning skills they're not developed in a vacuum. They are developed through relationships and interactions in the places where children live and learn. And that is why the core competencies, you know, are they are rings that represent the ecosystem that support children, that support their learning, that support their development, their classrooms, their schools, their homes, and their communities at large. Do you see that now? So while the core competencies receive a lot of focus, it is also equally important to develop a supportive learning environment that is coordinated for these trainings to be given to the children. All right? That is why a school family community partnership is essential in social and emotional learning. We must bring everybody on board. Everybody must be involved. Now let's talk about classrooms. Because I can no longer see my screen, I'm going to be speaking from my screen here, from my slides here. Let's talk about classrooms, right? I already said it that students spend the majority of their school day in classrooms, and these spaces are at the heart of the learning process, right? In classrooms, students can learn and practice social and emotional learning skills. And how can we make this happen? Explicit instruction. And when I mean explicit instruction, I mean clear cut instructions on how to manage emotions, on how to control their emotions, on how to make responsible decisions. Do you see that now? Building trusting relationships and integrating social and emotional skill into their academics. Right? We must focus on relationship building when it comes to empowering students on social and emotional learning. It is so important. And when I mean relationship building, I mean relationship building between teachers and students. Teaching social and emotional skills explicitly within a curriculum that is tailored to their developmental level. We must bring these things down. We must break it down for them to understand. We must integrate social and emotional learning throughout their academic subjects. All right? Throughout their academic subjects. For example, this can be, teaching practices such as cooperative learning, giving them role-playing activities, allowing them to work together as a team. When you do this for students, you are helping them build a a social and emotional skill that will be, needed all through their lives. As teachers, we must curate our learning experience for our children. Do you see that now? We must create what? A learning experience for our students. Give them opportunities to practicalize what you have taught them. Integrate SEL, that's the social and emotional learning, into your curriculum. And how can we do this? Language, art, mathematics, sciences, social studies, health, performing arts. Okay, think back. I'm trying to give us examples so that we can relate to what I'm talking about. Think back to a math classroom and imagine a student is working on an algebra problem, right? That they cannot solve. I do not like math. I personally do not like math. And one of the reasons why I do not like math, and I still do not like math, was because of my class teacher. My class teacher did not help me understand it. And there are a lot of other students that, are like me, a lot of other people that are like me, simply because my teacher was not a little bit more intentional with me as a slow learner in mathematics. Right? Now, back to our story or our example. Imagine a student is working on an algebra problem and they cannot solve it with strong self-awareness. Now, what I'm trying to teach you is how to integrate SEL into your various subjects. With strong self-awareness, they can recognize and label that emotion as frustration. Are you with me now? They can recognize and label that emotion as frustration instead of them throwing tantrums and disrupting the class, because now they are self-aware. They can tell you, oh, I am frustrated. Because now they know they can identify their emotions. They can use self-management skills to calm themselves down. Are you seeing this journey that I am taking you on? This is how you integrate SEL into your curriculum. They can use self-management skills to calm themselves down. And their relationship skills can be used to ask a teacher or a student for help. This is how we see SEL play out within our classrooms, regardless of the subject. And just in this one example, you can see how social and emotional learning is part of the process to help, this student solve her math problem or his math problem. And this is woven into core academic subjects. We must, as teachers, be ready to help our students learn this. See, SEL is not just for one teacher to do, it is for all teachers, no matter the subject, no matter the subject that you're taking. Are you with me? No matter the subject that you're taking. Now, let's go into the school. the general school community. In partnership with families and communities, school play a very central role in supporting children in their social and emotional development. From the cafeteria to the hallway to the playground, students have the opportunities to practice and reinforce SEL. And what do I mean by this? In addition to the classroom, we must be intentional as teachers. I want to believe that we have more teachers. If you're a teacher, please raise your hand. If you're a student, please raise your hand. If you're a school administrator, please let me know. In addition to the classroom, which I just spoke about, and how we can integrate SEL into the classroom, the school-wide approach using, focusing on supporting SEL within the entire school community is extremely important. See, when we effectively integrate SEL into our old school approach, which involves, ongoing planning, implementation, evaluation, continuous improvement, we are curating and creating a safe environment for children to grow in. Are you with me now? And this also speaks to how we strengthen relationships between families and school staff. I have had scenarios, I have stories upon stories that I can tell about how a parent, went into a school to beat down the teacher within the school community. And these are things that we need to discuss. These are things that we need to speak about. We must build safe and healthy school community for students to grow in. Schools should be rooted, like we must have a strong school culture where students have a sense of belonging, where they feel seen, where they feel heard, where they feel valued, they feel respected. This is crucial. SEL offers, an opportunity to enhance existing systems, of student support when we are intentional about it. When we're intentional about it. When we're intentional about it. We must be able to create a robust student support system within the school environment. Are you with me now? This is so important. So I have talked about the classroom, I have talked about school. Now let's go to families and caregivers. Let's go to families and caregivers. If you think that families play a vital role in shaping healthy children, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. I would love to hear from you. What do you think the family does when it comes to raising healthy children? Do you think the bulk of the work should be left for teachers alone in schools, right? Or we should actually partner with parents to ensure that children are empowered to become social and emotionally strong people. Please let me know if you're still here with me. I wish I can see how many people are online, but I really cannot. Okay. Okay, so I can see a question, and I'm going to get to this very shortly. Okay, I have this actually in my slides, so I'm going to get to this very shortly. Okay, I can also see the feedback. Yes, I think yes. Fantastic. I think parents do have a major role to play. Now, the reason why I asked this question is there was this incident here in Nigeria a couple of days ago. Um okay, thank you so much. There was something that happened a couple of days ago, and a child was being bullied in school. Like about 10 boys ganged up on a child, on another boy, on one boy, and they beat this child up to a pope. Like they beat him up to stupor. And I was watching that video, which was very gruesome to watch, if I'm being honest. And the only thing that I could think about was um, just imagine these boys that perpetrated this act of bullying, right? Again, I don't like to call children bullies because when we do that, we kind of label them, and they can go through life thinking that, oh, I am a bully. But no, they've perpetrated an act of bullying does not make them bullies. Bully is not a noun, it is a verb. Right? It is something that they can outgrow, they can unlearn, right? So I was looking at this video, and the only thing I could ask myself was, how, where did these children grow? Like, who raised them? But some kids are actually bullies. Well, again, I don't like to call children bullies. I love to call. I just love to, because when that's a label that they can carry for the rest of their lives, if not well taken care of. They can perpetrate acts of bullying, but it is not entirely right to call them bullies. Because now, remember that I said it earlier, that our goal is behavioral change. When you call them bullies, you have labeled them. But when you say that they've perpetrated an act of bullying, you opened a room, you have provided an opportunity to help them see that this is something that they can actually, do away with. This is an action. It doesn't define who they are. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say, Lenora. So yeah, I was thinking about how parents are so important. We tend to live in a very violent oh wow, okay. We tend to live in a very violent society where the way we respond to things are just, not nice. And this is why families are very important. Families are children's first teachers, and it is very essential in promoting SEL. Very essential. Now, I want to touch on some key things, right? I'm hoping that the team would be able to provide the slides for every participant, right? I want to touch on some key things, which number one is fostering emotional intelligence through SDL, fostering emotional intelligence through SEL. And one of the first strategies that every educator will find very useful is daily mood check. But what about the parents and family culture perpetrate those values? Okay, I'm going to get to questions very soon so that we'll take this in few minutes, right? So fostering emotional intelligence through SEL. As teachers, as educators, as even colleagues, we should do daily mood check-ins. And what do I mean by this? Encourage students to share their emotions at the start of the day through mood trackers, right? Or open discussions. When a child comes into your classroom, engage with them. How are you today? How was your night? How can I help you? What are you feeling today? Put a word to your emotion. This way, you are teaching children to identify their emotion and be more self-aware, right? Integrate mindfulness practices. And what I'm going to do now is trying to help you see how you can actually bring in SEL into your classroom. Integrate mindfulness practices into your classroom. Activities like deep breathing, right? Guided meditation, or even journaling can help your students be better emotionally equipped to face any form of trial or violence or conflicts that they might encounter during their school day or even during life entirely or generally, right? Help them to build emotional vocabularies. So how do you do this? Take them through emotional vocabulary exercises. Introduce students to a wide range of emotions that goes beyond happy and sad. There is something that I always say when we work with educator. It is that you should have an emotional charts or an emotion map in your classroom that has different facial expressions. This way, when they feel frustrated, they know what that feels like because they have seen it. They can put a word to it, right? This is how you integrate STL into your classroom, right? Self-reflection exercises encourage students to reflect. Somebody said it earlier that they would love their students to reflect, to think back, to think about what they have done, how they have done it, where they can better improve it. This is how you foster emotional intelligence through STL. Building resilience. This is a life skill. All of these things that I'm talking with you and sharing with you are life skills, and they are very important. Strategies to cultivate resilience for your students. Help them develop a growth mindset approach, right? A growth mindset approach. Teach students to see challenges as opportunities for growth. This is so vital. I cannot even overemphasize this. Rather than seeing them as obstacles, this is where their problem solving skills can be well honed and tweaked and better shaped, right? Teach them positive affirmations. When I was in school, my teacher would come into the classroom and have us say some words. I am brave. I am smart. I am intelligent. I can do all things. Those words shaped our minds in no small way. And as a teacher, as an educator, this should be one of the things that you want to integrate into your classroom. Help them to develop a habit of reinforcing their strengths over their weaknesses. Help them to affirm themselves. You build them to become better person when you do this. Teach them coping strategies for stress. Children experience stress as well. When you introduce techniques like relaxation or time management tools, children are not too young to learn how to manage their times. They're not too young to learn how to manage their time. When you teach them this thing, they're able to effectively manage stress, which is so important in teaching children how to be resilient, right? And again, problem solving activities. Use real life scenarios in your classrooms. This will help them practice critical thinking. Many of you will agree with me that this is a vital skill as adults. They will need it all through their lives. Now, let's talk about conflict. This one is very personal to me. And um, one of the ways that you can address conflict is through SEL, right? The first strategy that I will tell you or that I will share with you as an educator myself is teach students to use I statements. Help students to express their feelings without blaming others. And how can you do this? I feel upset when you. That way, you have used an I statement. You have expressed your own feeling without blaming another person, right? When we train children how to use I statements, they are better positioned to express their feelings without allowing or having or putting another person in a defensive mode. Restorative justice practice. In your classroom, there's something I call conflict corner. In that conflict corner, where students can come and talk about how another person has offended them or instigated any form of violent act against them. In this corner, they're able to address conflict and promote understanding between themselves within the classroom. Peer mediation programs teach your students how to effectively manage conflict, how to mediate conflict among peers. What this will do for your class is it will help you shape the leadership skill amongst your students, within your students, and also train them on problem solving skills. And the most important one is to model peaceful communication. Children learn by seeing. All right, children learn by seeing. More than the things that you say, what they see you do is most important. Children learn by seeing. So we as adults, as educators, as teachers, must model peaceful communication, right? And in building SEL, or in building an ecosystem that promotes SEL, professional development is so important. As a teacher, you must be intentional about growing this skill yourself. Equip yourself with the tools to integrate SEL into your classroom. You must involve parents. We must involve parents. They have a huge part to play in building and empowering children through SEL. And we must also partner with the community leaders, with the policy makers. This is how we build an ecosystem that promotes SEL. And I would love to end with this, right? I would love to end with this. Social and emotional learning advances urgent priorities in education. It helps with academic recovery, right? It promotes mental health. It helps with school safety, right? And future readiness. So these are things that we cannot ignore. These are things that this is something that we have to pay attention to. This is something that we have to pay attention to. This is a very vital aspect of transforming education in our day and in our time, right? And lastly, we must understand that SEL is not an extra. It is not something that we should choose to do or not to do. It is essential for student success. If we are going to raise wholesome, safe, and healthy children and students within our classrooms, we must consider SEL as important. Every teacher, every administrator, every stakeholder plays a role in making it possible, right? Everyone plays a role in making it possible. So this is very essential. There's a quote that I would love to end with, and it is from Martin Luther King Jr. It says that the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. That character is what SEL brings to the table. All right? That character is what SEL brings to the table. Thank you all so much. I would love to take questions in 5 minutes now. I hope that we learned one or two things from this session. From your experience, what are the most effective strategies for assessing students' SEL skills and providing targeted support? This is a very great question. From my experience, one way to assess a student's SEL skill is actually survey, right? Conducting a survey within the classroom helps you know if and how well they're doing with this skill, right? Because when you ask questions, you know the knowledge gap, you know what exactly that they need, how exactly they need it, and how you can better integrate and make it easy for them to get it, right? So conducting a survey is a way for you to assess, SEL within your classroom. There's something called behavioral indicators. This will help you to manage or monitor the changes in bullying incidents. So let me give an example. Remember that I said earlier that the goal of any learning should be behavioral change. If within your classroom there used to be a high rate of bullying, of conflict, now that you have integrated SEL into your classroom, there should be a reduction in that. Are you with me? There should be a reduction in that. There should be a reduction in that. As the bullying incident reduced, do they know how to manage conflict even better? How do they respond to difficult situations? How do they solve problems better? This way, you know that, okay, what we have brought into the classroom is working. So monitoring their changes in behavior is a great way to assess students' social and emotional skills. Also, the academic performance. Let me tell you this for free. Social and emotional skill always has a positive impact on academic performance, because when they are mentally stable, when they are emotionally all right and confident, it affects their academic performance. So you analyzing the improvements in your student engagement, in their focus, in their grades, is how you can also see that, okay, these children are actually learning. This skill is actually, impacting their lives. And lastly, the overall school climate. Remember that I said it that the school climate is also very important in this. When you assess the overall school climate and you evaluate this environment and you see that it perfectly aligns with SEL principles, then SEL is working. Do you understand me? So the overall school climate, how they resolve conflict, the reduction in bullying and violent experiences, you asking them questions through surveys and self-reports, all of this, and the academic performance, all of this help you to assess SEL and provide targeted support. Koichi, I hope I got your name right. I hope that answers your questions. In case where the students are quite too much to handle for a teacher, what are some strategies that can be explored, especially when the teacher is a gentle one? Oh, all right. So one of the things that I would always say when it comes to um, teachers dealing with students that are too hard to too much to handle is the school must be willing to provide support for their teachers. If you agree with me, please let me know. The school should actually provide support for their teachers. There should be a specific number of students within a classroom that the teacher can actually handle, right? Because a lot of times we put in so many students in a class that a teacher cannot handle. But when the school is also very SEL sensitive, right? They are able to create a support system for the teachers so that they are able to effectively manage the students within their classroom. So in a case where the students are quite too much to handle for a teacher, number one, speak to your administrator, right? Speak to your administrator about this. Let them be aware of this. Number two, you might also want to consider how or hone your skill in effective classroom management. Effective classroom management. So before you start a class, set clear expectations and boundaries. Children like routines. You don't know this, but children like routines. They like when they get into a place and you tell them what is expected of them. This way, you're able to manage their difficult behaviors. They know what is expected of them. They know what will be done when they go against the rules that have been set down. And again, this superimpose those rules on them. Work with them to establish those rules. So when you get into your class, things oh, hi guys, hi students, we are going to set these rules for our class, right? They will also actively engage with you. So they are working with you to create the rules and the expectations for their classrooms. This means that they'll be more willing to respond, to instructions when you work with them. So if you're a gentle person, a gentle teacher, a quiet one, set clear expectations within your classroom, right? Speak to your administrator, your school administrator, so that they're able to, provide the necessary support that you need within that class, right? I think those two work perfectly. And this is going to be the last question. What recommendations would you give to introverted kids who are not comfortable in social environment in order to help them develop their social and emotional learning? As an introvert myself, one of the things that you can do for an introverted child is to help them feel very secured and heard. A lot of times we live in a world where we see the very extroverted ones as the more interesting ones, and it means that people that are a little bit more quiet and introverted um, get to just cower in and shy away from a lot of things. But as a teacher, as an educator, it is your responsibility to provide a safe environment for even these ones to thrive by helping them feel heard and seen and paying a little more attention to them, and not you stretching them out of them comfort zone in the sense of it, right? So my recommendation will be extra intentional with these students, right? Let them be more comfortable with you to speak their mind. And when they do, validate their emotions. Validate their emotions. When you validate their emotions, they feel even freer to come to you and speak to you and want to learn these skills better. Whenever they're going through any kind of meltdown, you are able to help them process it. Now you're teaching them the self-awareness, you're teaching them the social skills, you're teaching them the relationship skills within their own comfort space. I hope that answers the question. All right. Okay, in my school, parents who are usually when I get with them. Yes, yes, with their kids' education have way better behavior and educational results with their kids. As a result, social and emotional learning works better with them. Yes. So yes, this is why it is very important that parents are actively involved in social and emotional learning within the school. We cannot ignore them. We can't ignore them. I think that's all. I don't think there's any other question. Thank you so much for having me. Just so good being here with everybody today. Okay. Although I'm seeing one more question. I don't know if the team.
Um, Thank you so much for that session. That was actually an insightful one, Miss Kolawole Oluwaseun. That was such an insightful one. I actually learned a lot, not just
Thank you so much for
as a
having me.
person now, especially I have nieces and nephews. And I really know how to relate
Mm.
with them. Like I really know how to use them, so I can be the sweet auntie instead of the aggressive one that they would run away
Mhm,
from. That was actually an
mhm.
insightful session, and oh my god, I knew it was going to be very active with a lot of questions, and we learned a lot. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for
Thank
this
you so much for
insightful
having me.
session. Such an honor to have you here. And that will be all for today. I hope we all learned. Before we go, we could just say hi in the chat box and drop our locations because I know we all learned. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for an outstanding for us for your outstanding insights, very interesting and meaningful. Of course, we all learned a lot. So thank you once again. We have to call it a wrap and do have a wonderful day. Thank you for participating to all our commentators, all our active listeners. Thank you so much. But it's time to round up the
Thank you so much for
session.
having
All
me.
right.
Yeah.
Hi from Jennifer from